Hello everyone, my name is Sarafi and I'm happy to meet you all. And today we're going to be playing Cyber Dragon Orcust. Now, Cyber Dragons are a deck that has not seen play for a long time, and the Cyber Style Evolution skill is a fun skill that I really enjoy playing. But really the crux of this video is the problem with Cyber Dragons and Orcust is that although Cyber Dragons do allow Orcust to kind of discard and get additional resources, and they're all machines, all the Cyber Dragon cards are light, and the Dark Lock that Orcust inflicts on them is actually pretty devastating. So even though I set out to play Cyber Dragon Orcust, because I needed 12 Cyber Dragon monsters in my deck to make the skill work, and because I was Dark Locked all the time that I tried to use the Orcust monster effects, it ended up mostly being a Cyber Dragon type of deck. So I'm not all that convinced that Orcust really adds much to the Cyber Dragon deck. But regardless, this does give you a lot more options when you're playing Cyber Dragons. So if you want to play a Cyber Dragon deck and you're worried that Cyber Dragons themselves aren't enough, take a look at this list and see if you think you can make it work. The skill is called Cyber Style Evolution. At the beginning of the duel, add one Cyber Emergency and one Power Bond to the bottom of your deck. In addition, the following effect can be used if you control one or more Cyber Dragons. Select one Cyber Dragon on your field and change its level to 5. This skill will only activate if you begin the duel with a deck excluding extra deck that has 12 or more Dragon type or Machine type Cyber monsters. This skill can only be used twice per turn and thrice per duel. So basically it lets you change your Cyber Dragons to level 5 so that you can make Nova. And that's good. Nova is a good card. For the main deck, we have, of course, Cyber Dragon. Level 5, if your opponent controls a monster and you control no monsters, you can special summon this card from your hand. This is not once per turn. So if your opponent compulses your Cyber Dragon, you just special summon it right back. It's a great card. Orcust Harp Horror, we're running this at 2 because it's limited to 3. You can banish this card from your graveyard, special summon one Orcust monster from your deck except Harp Horror. Also, you cannot special summon monsters for the rest of the turn except Dark monsters. So Harp Horror you want to discard with either your Orchestrated Return or your Cyber Dragon Natchster and try and get a Orcust Symbol Skeleton or Orcust Nightmare on the field so you can start laking off. Cyber Dragon Veer. This card's name becomes Cyber Dragon while on the field or in the graveyard. If you normal or special summon Cyber Dragon, except during the damage step, you can special summon this card from your hand in defense position. You can only use this effect once per turn, and each Cyber Dragon you control gains 500 attack and defense points. Veer is a light monster, and therefore, if you have Veer and you've activated an Orcust card, you can't use Veer's effect. So you want to try and get all your Cyber Dragons out of your hand before you start activating your Orcust cards. Veer is very good. You normal summon Cyber Dragon Core, you special summon Veer, you activate the skill, you immediately get Nova. It's really strong. So yes, you could go into a card like Chronomaly V Mana or the Pleiades, Constellar Pleiades, but we can't play Pleiades because we're playing Orcust. If you were playing a pure Cyber Dragons, you might play Pleiades. I like Nova. I just like Nova, and if you look at the replays, you're going to see that Nova won me the game basically every time. So I don't have a problem with just going straight into Nova. Cyber Dragon Core, when this card is normal summoned, add one Cyber Dragon spell or trap from your deck to your hand. That is not optional. So if your opponent has a negate out and you summon Core, they're going to negate it and destroy it, and that's going to suck for you. If your opponent controls a monster and you control no monsters, you can banish this card from your graveyard to special summon one Cyber Dragon monster from your deck. You can only use one Core effect per turn and only once that turn. This card's name becomes Cyber Dragon while it's on the field or in the graveyard. So Core is our starter. You will use it to draw Overflow if you're going first, or Fusion if you're going second, and just kind of win the game that way. Natchster. This card's name becomes Cyber Dragon while on the field or in the graveyard. You can discard one other monster, special summon this card from your hand. If this card is normal special summon, you can target one machine monster with 2100 attack or defense in your graveyard and special summon it. Also, you cannot special summon monsters for the rest of the turn except machine monsters. You can only use this effect once per turn. So Natchster is how we get our Orcust cards in the graveyard. Discard Orcust Nightmare, special summon it, then you summon Veer, and you go off. It's good enough. Orcust Nightmare cannot be destroyed by battle with a link monster. You can banish this card from your graveyard, target one face-up monster on the field. You cannot special summon monsters except dark monsters for the rest of the turn. Also send one dark machine monster from your deck to the graveyard except Orcust Nightmare, and if you do, the targeted monster gains attack equal to the level of the sent monster times 100 until the end of the turn. So Nightmare, we will use this to get either a Symbol Skeleton or a Harp Horror in the graveyard. It's a very good card. Sadly, we can only run one of it because we have to run 3 limit 3s. Hopefully they will ease up on Orcust in the future because Orcust is not that good anymore. The problem is Gandora really They should just nerf the Gandora skill, and then pure Orcust could probably be okay, and other versions of Orcust might see play. But for right now, it's kind of rough to try and make this work. Orcust Symbol Skeleton, you can banish this card from your graveyard, then target one Orcust monster in your graveyard except Symbol Skeleton and special summon it. Also, you cannot special summon monsters for the rest of the turn except dark monsters. Card once per turn. So, Symbol Skeleton is a great way to interact on your opponent's turn as long as you have the field spell out. It allows you to bring Dingirsu back and disrupt your opponent's plays that way. It's a great card, and it sees plenty of play in Orcust decks, and this deck is no exception. World Legacy World 1. This normal summon or set card cannot be destroyed by battle with a monster special summon from the extra deck. You can only use each effect once per turn. If this card is sent to the graveyard, you can special summon one World Legacy monster from your hand, and you can banish this card from your graveyard to target one banished Orcust monster and special summon it. Also, you are locked in a dark for the rest of the turn. So, World 1, you mill this with your Nightmare, and then you can banish it to revive your Harpor, for example. It's a really good card to have in your rotation, and also the 800 attack points that you get from sending it off of Nightmare is no joke. That will usually give you some serious threat. Orcust Brass Bombard. This is a level 1 tuner. You can banish this card from your graveyard to special summon one Orcust monster from your hand. Also, you cannot special summon monsters for the rest of the turn except dark monsters. So Brass Bombard isn't as good as the other ones, and we're not playing any synchro monsters, so we can't really use the fact that it's a tuner all that well, but it does have a lot of good utility if you happen to have a card like Nightmare in your hand, you want to get that card out. It's a good target for your Orchestrated Return, and I would rather have more names in the deck because I have a hard enough time accessing the Galatea anyway, so having an Orcust that we can just normal summon is pretty nice. Orchestrated Babel, you can activate the effects of Orcust monsters in your graveyard or link monsters you control with Orcust in their original names as quick effects. That is insane. That is ridiculously powerful. Can't believe this card was printed. During your main phase, if this card is in your graveyard except the turn it was sent to the graveyard, you can discard one card, and if you do, add it to your hand. So Babel we set off of Galatea, and that allows us to interact with our opponent during their turn. This gives Cyber Dragons some much needed defense, and is a good card. 3 copies of Book of Moon, 2 copies of Cosmic Cyclone to try and interact with our opponent. Cyber Load Fusion. Fusion summon one fusion monster from your extra deck that lists a Cyber Dragon monster as material. By shuffling the fusion materials listed on it into the deck from among your cards on the field and your face-up banished cards, but monsters you control cannot attack for the rest of the turn except that fusion summon monster. You can only activate this effect once per turn. So, fusion summoning Cyber Dragons during your battle phase is really good. And you could definitely play this card. Any quick play fusion spell is really strong because it allows you to use it to dodge removal, as you'll see in the replay. So yeah, we can only play one of it, but we definitely use the one that we get. Orchestrated Return, send one Orcust or World Legacy monster from your hand or face up on the field of the graveyard, draw 2 cards. You can only activate 1 per turn. So discard your World Legacy World 1 or one of your Orcust cards, draw 2. This will allow you to kind of mitigate the fact that we have 30 cards in the deck by getting some extra resources, and you can set it off of Galatea. Cybernetic Overflow, banish Cyber Dragons with different levels from your hand, face up on the field or your graveyard, then destroy an equal number of cards your opponent controls. This doesn't target. It's really, really strong. If this card on the field is destroyed by a card effect, you can add 1 Cyber Spell or Trap from your deck to your hand. You can only use each effect once per turn. So, Overflow you can search with Core, and that makes it really good. You can banish cards from your graveyard, which means you can Xyz into Nova and kind of sit on Nova, and if your opponent destroys Nova, then you have a couple of different monsters with different levels in your graveyard. You can activate Overflow after Nova has been destroyed, and that will allow you to kind of pop your opponent's cards, and banishing cards from your graveyard is pretty good because it allows you to access your Cyber Load Fusion. Orchestrated Attack. When a monster declares an attack, you contribute 1 Orcust or World Legacy monster, target 1 monster your opponent controls, and banish it. This is just a good interaction card that we can get if we don't have any necessarily good monsters in our graveyard with Orchestrated Babel. We can set this with Galatea, and it will allow us to at least get some interaction during our opponent's turn. It's not the best card, but it's fine as a one-of. For the extra deck, we have Cyber End Dragon, 4,000 attack points. A fusion summon of this card can only be done with 3 Cyber Dragons. If this card attacks a defense position monster, inflict piercing damage to your opponent. You can summon this off of Cyber Dragon Nova, and it's very, very powerful to get off of Cyber Dragon Nova. It's a great card, and I love playing it, and I got a lot more wins off of it than I was expecting. Cyber Twin Dragon. If you have 2 Cyber Dragons, it's got 2,800 attack points, and it can attack twice. Good enough. Chimera Tech Rampage Dragon requires 2 or more Cyber Dragons. A fusion can only be done with the above fusion materials. When this card is fusion summoned, you can target spells or traps on the field up to the number of fusion materials used for its fusion summoning and destroy them. So if you fuse 3 monsters, you get to pop 3 spells or traps. Pretty nice. Once per turn, you can send up to 2 light machine monsters from your deck to the graveyard, and if you do, for each monster sent to the graveyard, this card gains 1 additional attack during each battle phase this turn. So Chimera Tech Rampage Dragon can get you lethal if you go into an empty board. You just destroy all their traps, you get 3 attacks, and you attack directly 3 times, and you will kill them even if they have 6,000 life points. Very good card, very nice to have. You're only going to be able to fusion summon it though, so make sure that you have your Cyberload Fusion on hand when you need it. Dingirsu, the Orcust of the Evening Star, 2600 attack, rank 8. You can special summon this card once per turn. You can only exceed summon this card by using an Orcust Link monster you control as material. If a card you control would be destroyed by battle or card effect, you can attach 1 material from this card instead. And if this card is special summoned, you can activate one of these effects, either send a card your opponent controls to the graveyard without targeting, or attach one of your banished machine monsters to this card as material. So Dingirsu is a very good card going first. Going second, it will allow you to easily remove your opponent's threats. It's probably one of the best cards in Duel Links at the moment. And the main thing to watch out for with Dingirsu is that Crackdown Dingirsu can still use its effect to detach materials to protect cards, which is really annoying because it's not an activated effect. So if you get Crackdowned, you're going to have a hard time getting through your opponent's wall with Dingirsu. Cyber Dragon Nova, rank 5, 2100 attack, 1600 defense. Requires machine monsters. Once per turn, you can attach 1 Xyz material from this card, target 1 Cyber Dragon in your graveyard, and special summon it. Once per turn, during either player's turn, you can banish 1 Cyber Dragon from your hand or face up on your monster zone, and this card gains 2100 attack points until the end of the turn. If this card in your possession is sent to the graveyard by your opponent's card effect, you can special summon 1 machine monster from your extra deck as long as it's a fusion monster. So, Nova's ability to increase its own attack points does not require any overlay units, which is very interesting because you can special summon it off of Natchster. Natchster, when it's summoned, can target a machine monster with 2100 attack or defense points in your graveyard and special summon it. So you bring Nova back with Natchster after it's already been destroyed, and then you can use Natchster as material to basically buff Nova's attack points by 2100. So Nova is a very, very powerful card. It allows you to easily win any battle, and if your opponent tries to destroy it, well, then you get your Cyber Dragon, and then you win the game. So it's a hard card to out. It's surprising to me that people don't really play Cyber Dragons anymore, because this is a very dangerous card, especially against like all the meta threats. I guess the real problem is Compulsory Evacuation Device, but Compulsory Evacuation Device has long since been power crept with cards like Crackdown and Ice Dragon's Prison. So I'm not really worried about Compulse anymore, and without Compulse, there's really not a whole lot of ways that people can get around this. Galatea, the Orcust Automaton, requires 2 effect monsters, including an Orcust monster. This linked card cannot be destroyed by battle, so if you revive your Dingirsu in the zone that Galatea points to, your opponent can't destroy it. You can target one of your banished machine monsters, shuffle into the deck, then you can set 1 Orcust spell or trap directly from your deck. You can only use this effect once per turn. We link into Galatea and then we Xyz into Dingirsu, and that's how we make our deck. This is a fun deck. It's a lot of power going first and going second. Let's take a look at the replay. So we are going first against Altergeist. So we're going to start things off. We normal summon Cyber Dragon Core, and we immediately use this effect. We get to draw our Cybernetic Overflow, and we special summon our Cyber Dragon Veer from our hand because we normal summoned a Cyber Dragon. Set the Cybernetic Overflow, activate the skill twice, change both monsters to level 5, and Xyz into our Cyber Dragon Nova. Then we pass our turn. It's our opponent's turn. They're going to set 3 and pass. Our turn. We normal summon the Symbol Skeleton, and then we will link these two into Galatea, the Orcust Automaton. Our opponent is going to Ice Dragon's Prison in response. They're going to banish the Orcust Symbol Skeleton from our graveyard to banish Galatea. We will respond to this by activating Overflow and banish the 2 Cyber Dragons in our graveyard to pop 2 cards on our opponent's field. Well, we banish one of the Cyber Dragons in our hand, and then we banish the level 4 to pop 2 cards on our opponent's field. That's Paleozoic Canadia and Altergeist Manifestation. Our opponent activates Multifaker. Now, they do not get to special summon off of Multifaker because Multifaker says you cannot special summon monsters the turn you activate the effect to special summon a monster from the deck, except Altergeist monsters. So since he special summoned with Ice Dragon's Prison, he doesn't get to special summon from the deck with Multifaker. So don't play Ice Dragon's Prison in Altergeist. Alright, so since we did not use Cyber Dragon Core's normal summon this turn, we will banish Cyber Dragon Core from our graveyard, special summon a Cyber Dragon from the deck, and we beat over Multifaker. It's our opponent's turn. They normal summon Silquidus and set 1. Our turn, and we normal summon our Cyber Dragon Core. We're going to draw our Cyber Load Fusion, and then we will attack into the Silquidus with our Cyber Dragon. Our opponent is going to activate Ballista Squad in response, tributing the Silquidus to destroy Cyber Dragon. We chain, activate Cyber Load Fusion, return the 3 monsters from our field and our banish zone to the deck, special summon our Cyber End Dragon. Our opponent gets to return a trap from their graveyard to their hand, but that doesn't matter. We attack directly for 4,000, and that is game, ladies and gentlemen. There you go. This is the power of Cyber Dragons. This is the power of having a monster with 4,000 attack points that you can summon during the battle phase to completely overwhelm your opponent, and it has piercing. My name is Sarafi, and I was thrilled to have all of you with me.